Demeșcan Zvatu Vaservil, a cannabonist Volan Vaservil. Man can do what he wills, but he cannot will what he wills. Schopenhauer's words deliver a brutal truth. Our desires aren't entirely our own. We don't simply choose to want something. Desire arises spontaneously, and reason follows to justify what already lies within us. In this view, reason is always a tool in the service of pre-existing values, no matter how elusive or contradictory those values might be. At first glance, this seems obvious. After all, every choice we make is steeped in emotion and personal history. We employ reason not to generate our desires, but to achieve the outcomes our hearts already favor. Yet, the real puzzle emerges when we recognize that our values change, and not merely over centuries or across cultures, but within the span of a single lifetime. Reflect on your own experience. Perhaps you once felt indifferent about politics, only to later become deeply engaged. Maybe you abandoned religion, or conversely discovered faith later in life. Perhaps you rebelled against your parents' ways in your youth, only to find those very ideals have crept back into your life. How does this transformation occur? For much of history, philosophers and psychologists alike have externalized personal change. The common narrative attributes transformation to outside influences, a mentor's guidance, a life-altering tragedy, or the sudden discovery of a latent talent. While these factors undeniably shape our lives, they do not tell the whole story. What if, instead, change could be a deliberate act? What if we can willfully and rationally reshape who we are? This is where the concept of aspiration becomes essential, a process that challenges the notion that our values are fixed by biology or fate. Aspiration versus ambition, the difference that changes everything. Enter Agnes Callard, a modern thinker who redefines personal transformation as an active, willful endeavor. According to Callard, personal change is not simply something that happens to us, it is something we undertake. She distinguishes between ambition and aspiration in a way that upends conventional wisdom. An ambitious person has clear, established goals. They value money, success, or recognition, and they labor tirelessly to attain them. Their path is well charted because they know exactly what they want. In contrast, an aspirant is driven by the desire to cultivate new values they do not yet fully comprehend. For example, an aspiring doctor might not initially understand the profound commitment to caring for others that the profession demands. Rather than simply chasing a title, the aspirant seeks to learn to care deeply about healing and empathy. This subtle but crucial difference is where the tension and transformation intersect. Aspiration is not a straightforward pursuit. It is challenging, gradual, and marked by uncertainty. In essence, it is a bet on a version of yourself that is still in the process of emerging. Consider the experience of developing a taste for something initially unpalatable. When you first try coffee, you might only detect bitterness. Yet, through persistence and exposure, that bitterness can give way to a rich complexity, a transformation that mirrors the journey of personal growth. Consider the gradual evolution of romantic love. Initial attraction gives way to fascination and ultimately blossoms into a deeper, transformative connection. These examples illustrate that aspiration is not merely about achieving external benchmarks, it is about internal metamorphosis, a profound shift in the very architecture of our desires. Aspiration isn't just about making choices, it's about transforming the chooser from inside out. Struggle of the aspirant, Alcibiades, and the inner conflict. How can one pursue something whose full nature is not yet understood? This question lies at the heart of aspiration. Callard introduces the concept of proleptic reasons, which means acting as if you already hold a value so that over time that value becomes genuinely your own. Imagine a budding pianist who may not initially love the monotonous practice of scales but nevertheless practices rigorously, believing that one day this discipline will forge the skills and even the passion required for true artistry. History offers a vivid illustration of this internal struggle in the figure of Alcibiades, the Athenian statesman and general. Known for his brilliance, charisma, and ambition, Alcibiades was also a man torn between competing desires. On one hand, he recognized the transformative power of philosophy, particularly as espoused by Socrates, who he admired for his capacity to reveal personal shortcomings. On the other hand, he was irresistibly drawn to the allure of power, wealth, and immediate gratification. Alcibiades' inner conflict is captured poignantly in his own words from Plato's Symposium. Socrates is the only man in the world who has made me feel shame. My whole life has become one constant effort to escape from him and keep away, but when I see him, I feel deeply ashamed. Sometimes, believe me, I think I would be happier if he were dead, yet I know that if he dies, I'll be even more miserable. I can't live with him. I can't live without him. What can I do about him? Here, Alcibiades exposes the tension between the self he is and the self he longs to become. His attraction to Socratic wisdom offers a glimpse of a more reflective, morally anchored existence, yet his existing desires tether him to his former self. This conflict is the very essence of aspiration. It is not simply about acquiring new goals, but about engaging in a battle with the entrenched parts of ourselves. Some aspirants manage to bridge this gap, gradually transforming their character through conscious effort and self-examination. Others, however, remain trapped between two selves, caught in a perpetual struggle that leaves them half-fulfilled. The story of Aspiration underscores the reality that aspiration is inherently messy. It is a path fraught with internal resistance, setback, and the ever-present challenge of reconciling who we are with who we aspire to become. Aspiration is the battleground where our present self confronts the promise of a future self, a future that must be actively earned, not passively received. Collective aspiration. Can a society transform? If individuals can engage in the process of aspiring to new values, what happens when we shift our focus to society at large? Collective aspiration extends this personal struggle to a communal or even national scale, suggesting that societies too can deliberately evolve by adopting new sets of values. Rudolf Steiner's concept of social threefolding offers an instructive framework here. Steiner posited that a healthy society is one in which three spheres, the economic, the political, and the cultural, are distinct, yet harmonized. Each sphere has its own logic and set of values. The economic sphere is concerned with production, labor, and the distribution of resources. The political sphere governs collective decision-making, laws, and civil liberties. The cultural sphere embraces education, art, and the pursuit of knowledge. Ideally, these spheres function in balance, yet in practice, societies often become unbalanced. The economy may overshadow political and cultural life, reducing complex human experiences to market transactions. Alternatively, political power can become so centralized that it stifles creative expression and economic freedom. In other cases, cultural elitism may detach itself from practical realities of governance and production. The notion of collective aspiration asks whether societies can consciously work to realign these spheres, transforming their values even as they struggle to understand them fully. Just as an individual must overcome ingrained habits to evolve, a society must confront its entrenched structures that resist change. This requires a collective willingness to experiment with new ways of organizing life, a long-term commitment to the public good, and the courage to let go of outdated norms. A society that aspires to change is one that dares to reimagine its values, creating a future that reflects the collective yearning for something more profound than the status quo. Conclusion: the transformative power of aspiration. Aspiration, then, is not a mere personal quirk. It is a fundamental mechanism for change. On an individual level, aspiration is the bridge between who we are and who we might become. It is the force that challenges our default desires, compelling us to engage in the difficult work of self-transformation. Schopenhauer was right in asserting that we do not simply choose what we want. However, as Agnes Callard reminds us, we can learn to want differently. By acting as if we already hold a new value, we gradually reshape our desires and redefine identities. On a broader scale, collective aspiration offers a model for societal evolution. When communities and by extension entire civilizations commit to a deliberate reordering of their values, they embark on a transformative journey akin to that of the individual. It is a process that demands patience, sacrifice, and an unwavering belief in the possibility of change. Ultimately, aspiration is both a personal and political project. It is the messy, uncertain journey towards a future that is not yet fully formed, but whose promise motivates us to strive for a better version of ourselves and our societies. If individuals can learn to cultivate new desires and transform their lives, then perhaps, by extension, our collective future can be reshaped as well. Maybe, just maybe, through the deliberate and courageous act of aspiration, both we and our societies can find salvation in change.